For hundreds of years, there has been so many speeches and movements that changed the course of history forever. For example, I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King Jr. on August 28, 1963.
I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Or when Abraham Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address reenactment in 1863.
And dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Or when Nixon and Raphael formed the bus boycott in 1955, where Martin Luther King held it. But there has been one that changed segregation in the whole country. The Civil Rights Movement happened in 1954 in the South of the United States of America. Though the Civil War had officially abolished slavery, but it didn't end discrimination against African Americans. Let's look back. In 1868, the 13th Amendment passed by Congress to end slavery in the U.S., which also the 14th Amendment gave African American equal protection under the law. And the 15th Amendment gave African Americans the right to vote, which started to give African Americans the same rights as Americans. The Plessy versus Ferguson Act came to action due to Plessy being arrested for sitting in a first-class train for his colored skin. So Congress issued separate but equal, but didn't end segregation. In the South, they added Jim Crow laws in the late 19th century, so African Americans have the same rights but cannot be near whites, such as towns, bathroom, water fountains, schools, and restaurants. Not only that they couldn't be near each other, but some African Americans still couldn't vote because they had to pass a literary test, which violated the Constitution. So many African Americans fought for equal rights, but there has been one we all remember who changed everything and who was a great role model, Martin Luther King Jr.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was a very fearless leader, and because of a lot of his actions and his calm demeanor, he was able to encourage people to peacefully protest. The one thing that stands out to me the most about Dr. King was he was not afraid to die. He knew through his speeches, through what he was going through, that someone was going to attempt to silence him and to take his life, because he inspired so many Black people to protest, to stand up for their rights. And he was very inspiring in that he inspired change.
Even though Martin Luther King was a brave person and many people have looked up to him, there has been another leader that was the face of the civil rights movement, Rosa Parks. She lived in Alabama her whole life, and one day after leaving a hard-working shift, she took the Cleveland Avenue bus to get home. The bus started to fill up with white people, and once the bus driver saw that the white men were standing, he told 4 African Americans to give up their seats for them. Rosa Parks, on the other hand, didn't want to because the row they were sitting is only for African Americans only. She was arrested for violating the law, for not moving. This started a spark on the bus boycott. Here's Mr. Rogers with some thoughts about Rosa Parks.
Well, strangely enough, I went to Rosa Parks Middle School. This is in Chicago. It's amazing because now if a older lady was coming on the bus and we were sitting down, most of us would give up our seat for that person. But it's amazing that back then, just because of the color of her skin, she would have to stand up the whole time after working a hard, long day. And anyone on the bus would just get up and offer their seat. But like in today's society, almost everyone would. It wouldn't matter if they were black, white, Indian, Asian, whatever, would do it. So I think because of that, it impacted the way we are today. And I think, you know, there's a lot of equality going on around right now because of all that happened way back when.
The civil rights movement changed segregation in the United States. Now, we wonder who's next.